welcome back to another Mask Momentum video. This is an Arsenal pass. This...
You're listening to?
No, this is not Arsenal pass. This is Team Majin Bay interview number 1 with himself, Majin Bay. How are you doing today?
Doing all right, I suppose. Yeah.
Doing all right. Podcast, how do you feel about that?
I'm feeling great. I'm glad we've announced the birth of the new team, Team Majin Bay, which is the 3 of us.
So, you alluded to it, but you know, there's only 3 members on Team Majin Bay. First of all, it's Pankaj Bharjwani. Am I saying that correctly? I always butcher your last name. It's great.
It's fine. I'm used to it. Like, so, by everyone, not just you.
Yeah. So there's Pankaj. There's me. And there's a guy called Majin Bay. Like, he's not really that important about the team, but like, he's on the team. So
more like the mascot.
Yeah, he's more like the mascot. It's not like he wins anything. Like,
Definitely.
It's in the name. He's like the name of the team, but yeah, the backbone is the 2 of us, Peter, for sure.
Yeah, obviously, like he would never get anywhere besides his like favorite caster and like favorite like sidekick, basically. So like yeah, like a true superhero never he has to have a team, you know, and like we're just the 2 people he found on the street. So that's basically how it works. Exactly. All right, let's get into
This is all news to me, by the way.
Really? I thought we talked about this beforehand. So
no, I don't remember this.
Maybe you need to go back to the notes. Maybe you look at the notes. But
oh, okay.
The notes.
Yeah, the notes that
extensive notes. This definitely wasn't Peter just hitting us up a few hours ago, be like, hey guys, are y'all free to like just record something? And we're like, okay.
Yeah, definitely not. Okay, so let's get to it. Obviously, I'll address the elephant in the room. Pankaj, you casted U.S. Nationals this past weekend. How did it go? Did you see a lot of cool, interesting games this weekend?
Oh yeah, the games were awesome, and also it was weekend of High Seas release, right? So lots of new stuff and new strategies, which is super interesting. How was your weekend?
Yeah, my weekend was good. You know, I went 9-6 at U.S. Nationals, losing to Michael Hamilton in the last round to bubble out of 64 cash. And then I played the Battle Hardened on Gravy, which I literally never played a game of in CC up to that point. And I ended up top 8ing and then losing the quarterfinals to a Florian who giga-bombed me. And when I say giga-bombed me, I mean giga-bombed me. I had no chance of winning that game. So, yeah. Caleb, how was your weekend?
It's fine.
Just fine.
Played some poker.
Oh, we did play some poker. Yeah, that was a fun time.
That was fun.
That was fun. That was great. I love that.
Thanks for teaching me. Yeah.
Yeah. We had like an entire table of all Flesh and Blood players for like the entire night, which was so cool.
Yeah, it was like both when we were doing it, when we were playing poker on Thursday night and Sunday night, it was like it was just like the whole table, like 6 or like up to 9 of the people at the table were all just like Flesh and Blood players, and then there was like maybe 1 or 2 random people, and then it turned into like a table of all Flesh and Blood players playing poker, and you could definitely tell that like some of us knew how to play the game, and then some of us had no idea what was happening and was losing the entire time like Pankaj. Like, I remember Yuandri literally telling Pankaj like if his hand was good or not after everybody is like the hand's done, and he's like, all right, so Pankaj, what did you have at this time? You're just getting
he like open folds, and he's like, I think I made a good fold, and Yuandri's like, what'd you have? And he goes, ace king offsuited, and he's like, no.
It's like Yuandri's literally playing in the World Series of Poker, and he's just like giving free coaching to Pankaj on the table, and I'm like, man, this is probably like thousands of dollars of coaching that he's just giving to you.
It was a great time. I had no plans to gamble at all. Like, I've been to Vegas a few times and never gambled because it's not my thing. But the only reason I was there is because I was complaining to Majin that the drinks were too expensive at the bar. And I was like, why are the drinks so expensive? If they want people to gamble, the drinks should be cheaper, then I'll get drunk and go gamble. And he was like, you know, they give you free drinks if you are at the table. And I was like, okay, we're going to the table.
We played one poker because it was the easiest way for you to just sit there and not actually gamble anything.
Yeah, if you
So that's the hack.
it's the secret hack is in 1-2 poker it takes about like 30 minutes for them to go to play 9 hands, right? And so your big blind, small blind one times is $3. And if you get 2 drinks in 30 minutes and your drinks are like $12, you've really only paid $3 for your drinks all the night, and then like, you know, $2 in tips, right? So it's like $5 for 2 drinks. And you sit there and you just, you know, have fun with the boys. It's
I
free.
think my money's worth in G&Ts for sure.
Yeah, I think I had 4 dirty Shirleys, which is not a drink I normally order. But I don't know. I wanted that, like, I was craving like a celebratory something, and for some reason, Shirley Temples feel celebratory for me.
Wait, what were you celebrating?
I got a B in trigonometry. That's what it
Ooh,
was.
the B in trig, bro.
Yeah.
That's big.
I brought it up from a C plus at the in the final, just to bump it up to a B. I was like,
So would you say that you activated Plume and then got, you know, to win the final?
I mean, that too, I guess. That also happened. Dude, I could feel during that final game, I could feel Twitch chat losing their mind about me just not killing my opponent every turn. Like, not just Storm Stridering pulsing either. I could like feel it.
Yeah.
I was saying disciplined wizard player right there. If you don't need to pop it, just don't pop it.
Yep. No, I appreciate it. I mean, it's just like not worth losing to throw caution to the wind. Does he have it? Probably not. But like, what if he does? That would suck. And I just don't have Storm Striders.
You don't need to.
Yeah, I don't need to.
Brought up your yellow oasis story. It was just too hype in the moment.
Oh,
I should have been like, he's died to yellow oasis before when he popped Striders, so he's just being disciplined.
This man's disciplined. What's funny is that I sat around and played around that oasis. I just like eventually couldn't play around it anymore. And I was like, surely Briar doesn't run Oasis anyway. It's fine. It's yellow Oasis and I lose the game.
Ari, we alluded to it. You have to tell the story about the yellow Oasis now. Like, it is just, you have to.
So I think this was a calling. Round 1, I'm playing against a Briar and I'm Icelander and I'm in a pretty commanding position. And I just like get my opponent into Storm Strider's range, basically. But I'm waiting for, they're in Storm Strider's range and I have like Blue Hail in my arsenal. And like Blue Hail plus Waning Moon is going to kill my opponent. But I'm waiting for something else to go over the top. To play around something like an Oasis, because my opponent just always had like 1 card behind. And I wait for like 3 turns and don't draw a spell. Like any spell, even like a Frosting would have done it. I just like don't draw one. And so finally I have to just like pull the trigger. And my opponent on a card they drew that turn casts yellow Oasis Respite in their aggro Briar deck. And lives and wins the game. And then I'm like in disbelief. Red Oasis, sure, but like yellow Oasis, we're like second cycle. I have not seen this card, right? It wasn't pitched. It was tucked via E-Strike or something. I'm not seeing this card, and I'm just like flabbergasted. And my opponent, like, you know, we do the good games, and then he's like, "Man, I can't wait to tell everybody that it worked." And I'm like, "Oh my god." And then the funny part was that, like, obviously since my opponent casts yellow Oasis Respite against me, I'm not thinking the most positive thoughts about their like level of play, right? I'm like, no super serious player is going to put yellow Oasis Respite in their Briar deck against Icelander. Like, I don't even think Oasis Respite's good against Icelander. And then I look at the standings at the end of the day, and I like battled back, but they were the #1 seed going into day 2. And I was like, well, I guess I was wrong.
I remember when this happened to you so vividly in my mind when you were telling the story. And like, I'm like, oh yeah, what did you lose to? And he's like, you won't even imagine. And I was like, yo, like, did they just like Giga Bomb you? You lost to Briar? That's like such a good matchup. And he's like, have you ever lost to yellow Oasis? And we
That's why I still bring it up.
Yeah, we
Funny,
still
yeah.
bring it up to this day. Like, no matter what, like, yellow Oasis is the best.
It's the boogeyman.
This is the boogeyman in the
Don't
format.
pop Striders. But it's funny because you actually didn't pop Striders until you had to. You did follow the correct thing. You got juiced. But I think the sentiment still stands. It's like, if you don't need to pop the Striders, you just don't need to pop it.
I win so many more games by holding off on like doing the wizard thing until I'm in a better spot, until it's like actually secured. Like I'll play around ridiculous odds for my opponent to have exactly X, Y, and Z, because if I don't have to go, I just won't go. And I do think it like wins me a lot more games than it loses.
Yeah.
I definitely agree. But I think where it maybe gets a little bit frustrating is in testing. Like I've noticed other people are like, dude, if you have it, just kill me. I was like,
Kill me. And you're like, I can't. Yeah.
It's like it's illegal. Like I will be fired. I'll be like dismissed from the Catholic.
I'll be fired.
Yeah.
I'll be removed from Team Mod.
You know, we
Sitting there, they're like, what are you playing around? I'm like, I don't know, the zero cost prevent 3. I don't even know what it's called.
Yeah. What if you
might have it?
What if you have 2 Sigil of Solace and I just haven't seen them yet? Like,
Exactly.
unlikely, but it could happen.
could happen.
Yeah.
It literally could.
In testing, definitely, I think it can be frustrating to play against, like when a wizard does that.
Yep.
But in competitive play, yeah, for sure,
You just wait, yeah.
100%. All right, we'll get it out of the way. Caleb, you're now our U.S. national champion. Woo!
But
Yeah.
over there, you can't see it though.
Oh man, but you've joined some of the greats of the U.S. You know, Michael Hamilton. You know, Evan Hernan, Charles Dunn, and Tarek. And so you're number 5 on the list of U.S. national champions. It's been 5 U.S. national championships.
That's actually crazy.
It's actually like insane to think about. As the 5th...
No, it's crazy. It's been that long to take me to win. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, we really after 5, you know, we've kind of gone downhill. Like if you can win at this point, like Fab's almost over, dude. Like it's, I mean, this game, it's like Gwent. Like we're out the door. Like. But
you said Gwent instead of Runeterra, but
yeah, I thought.
Whoa! We're Runeterra respecters here, okay? Like, first of all right.
You and I did play Runeterra tournaments after, like, we would race, like after we finished like day 1 of the PT, we would take our phones and start playing Runeterra seasonals because your matches weren't scheduled in day 1.
I knew you used to do that. I didn't know Peter was in a Runeterra.
He got me into it.
I got him into it. Yeah.
So fun story. I worked a card game job for like at a random local when like I worked a CrossFit job and then it shut down because of COVID. Worked like this worked this card game job, and I used to sort bulk for like 8 hours basically. I was just a bulk sorter, and I would just need to watch like large VODs. And one day, you know, I'm just scrolling on YouTube and I see, you know, just like a random dude. He's playing like Legends of Runeterra. I have no idea what the game is, right? And it's just like he's doing his like seasonal run, and it's like 6-7 hours, and I'm like, yeah. I was like, I'll put the thing on, you know, like I want to know. No idea how the game works. Dude's entertaining. Don't really think about it. Like get through it, and I think I've watched at that point like 3 or 4 like going through, and then it's like right before the first World Championship, and I joined Kayfabe Cards at the time, which was one of our like old teams, and you know Caleb's on it, and it took me like 24 hours to realize it was the dude that like he was the one that I was watching in the VODs, but I've still never played Runeterra at that point, right? Like I've just watched him play, and then you, Yost, and like a couple people used to always make like Runeterra references, and then eventually down the line we're playing. I think the first seasonal I played was when we were at like a One Piece tournament in It was like Dallas or something. I forgot where the One Piece tournament. Maybe it was Peoria.
It was Peoria.
Yeah, it was Peoria. And I'm like, yo, I gotta start playing the game. Like this is what you do for a living, and like I have to I have to learn how to play it, because I was watching your like, you know, I watched your Twitch VODs like when I was not working, and we started playing Runeterra, and then so we were both like this on our phones, and the first seasonal I played, I made like the cut, like I think I went like
top 64.
Yeah, top
out of like
64
1,000
cut.
people.
Yeah, first time ever. And then I play the GOAT of Runeterra, Floppy Mudkip.
Who plays Fab now?
Yeah, who plays Fab now. Like, I've seen him at multiple events.
He's at Nationals.
Yeah. I played
name?
Floppy Mudkip.
Like,
I don't know.
His real name.
But you can recognize him. Do you know his face?
Yeah, I talked to him
Yeah.
every day. I'll point him out.
He's the GOAT.
He's like the U.S. LOR GOAT. Like, he's the dude.
He's like Michael Hamilton, but if Michael Hamilton won more tournaments.
Oh, that is wild because Hamilton wins like so many tournaments already.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, he was kind of crushing it.
He was insane.
Okay.
But yeah, and then I just started playing Runeterra until it basically shut down. From that position, when we would just play.
You would just tell him what decks to play.
Yeah,
I
I literally watch your VOD and you'd be like, I would play these 3, and then I would be in our like Discord and be like, yo, so should I play these 3? Like I like playing these. This is my collection. Like, what do I buy? Like, what do I do? And I would just spend like $60 basically to like play a seasonal, and I'd play like it was so much fun. It was so much fun.
Yeah, seasonals were so great.
Majin's just dying inside now. He's like, you paid $60 to play the whole thing. That's why it died. It was so cheap. It's just like,
Nobody paid money because everyone just had all the cards. Peter literally never played the game and bought 3 tier 1 decks for $60.
Yeah. So I could have played the game in between seasonals. Like it was like a month every month or something, and I could have played the game with like the decks that I bought for like the next month and like when the meta changed, and got the cards to build the decks for the next month. But I would play the seasonal, play like 2 days of Runeterra, and then like go back to fab grinding, and then we'd go to a next event. It was always paired with an event that we were going to, and
always on the same weekend.
It was always the same weekend, and then it'd be like Friday, and we're just sitting at like dinner, and I'm like, yo, what decks do I build? And then I would just like spend $60, buy the entire decks, and like play for like 3 games, and then play the for the weekend. So it was really nice.
Dual queuing was so sick. It was so fun. You go out to like dinner with your buds, right? And then you're just sitting there on your phone, like playing your games and stuff. I'm 4-0. Let's go.
4-0, let's go.
Good time, yeah.
It was a good experience. I liked it.
When you put it that way, it actually somehow made it sound less fun because you're like, oh, I'm at dinner with the boys, but everyone's on their phone.
I mean,
That part-
I guess like
It was like, looking back on it, it was like, yeah, we're on our phones, but like you would be talking to each other the entire time, basically, right? Like
it's like a team effort. We're like 3-headed dragoning these like seasonal games.
yeah.
Okay, yeah. I guess if everyone's playing together, then that makes a bit more sense.
Yeah,
But
it's fun.
Have, like now, it's like really fun and no one's on their phone. Like when we have like dinner in Vegas and stuff. It's just
My favorite question to ask was like, so you get to like, you'd see their lineup of like their 3 decks or 3 decks, and I would look at it and I'd be like, I should ban this one, and then they would like look over and they'd be like, why would you ban that one? Like all 3 of your decks are favored into that one, and then they're like, you should definitely ban the one that all 3 of your decks lose to.
The Conquest format was really interesting to like bring 3 ban 1.
Yeah, it was very fun. And then after you would ban, you had to like pick which one you start with. Like your opponent doesn't know, and I'd be like, which one do I play? And they're like, it literally doesn't matter. Like you have to win with both. It literally does not matter which one you pick. But I would always ask that question, and Yost used to look at me and be like, this guy. Every time.
It's like, imagine like basically our like Brian, just like super mathy dude, like super smart guy, basically put out like a mathematical paper on why it doesn't matter which deck you pick like for the first game. But it's still like all the time people will be like, well, what deck should I pick first? And it's like, it doesn't fucking matter. It's very funny.
And then it's like that it's like that bell curve meme to where it's like, what deck do I pick? And then it's like, it literally doesn't matter. And then it's like the troll face, what deck do I pick?
My good matchup. And then it's like, it literally doesn't matter.
It literally doesn't matter.
Go face, clear allies, go face.
Yeah. Okay, so speaking of go face, clear eyes, go face, I think it was like pretty interesting. Your opponent in the finals that was playing Gravy. I forgot his name. Punkers, do you remember his name?
Jacob Shaker.
Jacob Shaker. Okay, he released like a kind of like a Google Doc of like his like write up of like what he thought about his tournament and like the Gravy deck, which was like really insightful to read basically. And he talked about like 3 different stances of like your opponent always clearing your board and what to do against that. They would only clear the important ones and then like try to mix both of them, and then 3 go face. And he talked historically about in the finals, he never expected you to go face the entire time, and he was like, oh, I'll get the life points back by like you having to send like a plow into an ally, or like you spending your entire like 2 cards basically to kill an ally, or like or a whaler, and you never did that. What was the thought process behind of like just going face the entire time and never really thinking about it?
So I imagine we probably had more games into Gravy Bones than like probably just about anyone there. Like, aside from literal people like testing Gravy Bones into each other or something, like we had a lot of Gravy Bones games, because Yuki kept kicking our ass. With a list that was like more aggressive and less ally focused. And with ally decks, like I have a lot of experience playing Wizard into ally decks or like board-based decks, right? And I thought it was really interesting the way that Jacob Shaker put his like 3 things, right? It's like, here's the 3 macros that your opponents are going to choose, because it's very similar to how you would play like a Bullander or Buldance like type deck, or Kano. Like when you play Wizard, you have to figure out like, how is your opponent going to respond to you doing things? Right? And like, if your opponent is going to AB your Aether Flares, you need to play accordingly. And if they're going to let things fly and like race you, you need to play accordingly. If they respect your Wildfire at the end of their turn in IP cards, do they think that 2 resources up is safe? Do they think that nothing but 3 resources up is safe? Right? Like, you have to adjust how you play your game based on all these things, just like he mentioned in his doc. And like, I think that's one area where I like kind of shine, is adjusting my plans based on that kind of stuff, based on how my opponents approach a match. And in our game in Swiss, he played AB0, and I assumed he was on more allies because I saw things like Anka. Why do people play that card?
I don't. After reading the card multiple times, I'm like, I don't understand why people play this card. I think it's good in the it might be good in the mirror.
Well, that's what I thought too. I was like, I was going to mirror and theoretically going against Azalea because Death Dealer uses like the draw.
Or like Mass Momentum, I guess.
I read it more and I was like, wait, the Gravy player needs to discard a card too to prevent the opponent. I guess you still go up, right? Because the opponent, instead of drawing, they discard. So you do go up.
And you're discarding an ally, but it's like, it's not free.
Yeah, I would say Mirror and Azalea. I think Azalea is a big one, actually.
Could be. We ended up off it pretty quick, so like other people would have a much better idea of why it would be good. But like I saw Anka and stuff, and I was like, oh, my opponent's on like a heavier ally list, which is what we expected a lot of people to be on if they were running Gravy Bones. And then like immediately I picked up that my opponent like would rather not block. He brought AB0, and then I sent a couple of like testing attacks early. With the intention of racing, because I'm like, oh, this guy like brought AB0. I know the reach that my deck has, and I think people overestimate how powerful some of the allies are into a deck like this. And he's just got a lot of no blocks, so we'll play this game. And then I drew like super anemic, and it like just didn't work out. Like the hands just did not work out for the aggressive game plan that I wanted to take. And so I pivoted to like a more clear board type thing. I left things like Oasis out, right? But like I was playing to like the heartbeat, multiple ping stuff. But, like I just fell so far behind so fast, and couldn't catch back up. And so I lost that game. But I was like, oh wow, he really like was not blocking. And against a deck like Verdance, if you take that stance, you have to know that it's the right stance, because if you like no block twice, right? If you take 8 2 times, and then like I'm sending a couple other big things at you down the road, like all of a sudden you now have to block because my reach is 9, right? Like, and you gotta watch out. So you're already so low. You know, if you're at 24 and I can storm strategy you for 9 and I'm felling you, you got to start blocking, right? Like, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna get these first couple attacks for free. He played Lucas the next round next to me, and I watched Lucas fatigue him by only going allies. He played AB1 and Lucas fatigued him, effectively fatigued him. And so when we got paired up in the finals, I was like, oh, he's going to go back to the way he played against me. Like he beat me by going AB0 very aggressive. And then against Lucas, he wasn't able to be aggressive enough and got fatigued. He's going to come out the gate swinging. And I'm going to get like a lot of shots in. And then he presented AB0 again, and I was like, nice. I totally see why he did it, but like I knew that I would rather have him play AB0. And yeah, I just got my first couple shots in and put him to the must block earlier than I think he would have liked to be. Even though like he had a Humperdinck on the board on turn 2. Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After reading his write-up, like he built his deck to play Humperdinck, basically. Like his whole thing was like, I'm a heavy ally strategy, and like barely playing reds. Like I think he just had Conquer the ICs was his like entire red base, and I don't. Did he
had the D-Rex on the board?
Yeah, D-Rex on the board. I don't even know if he played red Tipple in his list, but like he had like fly highs and all this, and he was talking about how like basically if you could Mage Master play 2 allies or like 3 allies on a turn, like always take it. Like he's always picking first if he wins the die roll. His entire deck casts Whaler. He has 3 Whalers versus everybody, even aggro decks he's playing 3 Whalers. So it after reading his thing, it made a lot of sense. And he's like, I need to close the game before, you know, Verdance gets online or I'm falling too far behind, so I can take a hit and then like present to my hand, or just like swing Whaler for 11 every single turn at that point. But no, it was kind of wild to see where everybody ended up on
very different
on Gravy, because you know I kind of ignored the Gravy chat for like a long time. Just like I would read, but like it wouldn't ever. I wasn't like reading for intention. I was just kind of reading. And then I would read other chats of like people talking about it, and then talking to people like at the event of like why, like what they were doing with Gravy. And it felt like every single person was at a different spot with the list, and there was like people like playing in between. There was more of like the Yuki list that is like allies are second, like it's just an add-on to the deck. And then there's his that is like, I'm playing for every single ally in my deck, and that's the only way I can win the game, basically. So it was kind of interesting to see where people brought Gravy at that point, but I kind of thought that was going to happen because we had like 2 weeks from we know the card pool to like US Nats. It's like either the Gravy decks are like very good out of the gates and it's very easy to build, or it's going to take many months for it to be good. And I think we're getting kind of a mix of both.
I think Gravy is just Enigma.
Yeah.
Like, I think the deck's absolutely wildly overpowered. It does a thing a lot of decks can't deal with. I think you're seeing a lot of different builds have such success because the core of it is just so powerful and hard for decks to interact with. Yeah, it's just gonna be. I believe it's gonna be a top 2 deck forever. Like,
I'm surprised you said you weren't looking at the Gravy chat, because I had my pulse on that chat the entire time, because my dooming started early. Like y'all know me at like board state decks. I was like, okay, this is
You hate
broken,
board state.
or is this? Did they finally like make a fair one? And I'm with Majin. Yeah, I think it's basically any slow deck can never beat you, and then you also have game into fast decks. So it's like literally Enigma, where every slow deck dies to her, and then Aurora, and she can still play into Aurora too, because like Phantasmaclasm and stuff like that exists.
Once I played against, I was like, oh, this is like a good board-based deck. Like, this is fine, this is fair. And then I played against Yuki with like the Tipples, and she brought in like red sloops against me, and I was like, this is so fucked up. And then we played some games into like Katsu. We're like, let's see how bad our worst matchup is. And then we went like 2-1, and we're like, I'm sorry, what?
It's like when it's Phantasmaclasm in, right? They're like, let's put this board state stuff aside and just play big number, because I have access to that alongside board state. And it's like, wait.
Yeah, I definitely
I think
through not like reading that chat as much, but as everybody knows in this call, like if you don't like literally at me and you're like you have to be doing this, like I'm just kind of oblivious. But I also I feel like by testing I kind of like threw, because I knew everybody was coming to Vegas like starting like Monday, Tuesday, and so I was like, oh, the week before everybody comes, I'm just gonna be at work for like 10 hours and just like really grind work so that like I don't feel bad skipping out on work like early or not going to work the next week basically. And then so I like kind of grinded there, and then would get like as like a couple games and not read the chats as much because I was just busy or like tired. And then it got to like that week, and then after like 2-3 days I realized that like the deck I wanted to play, like Mario, was like not the deck I should be playing for this tournament. And then
Do you want to tell Mr. Punkos why?
oh, I got gigabombed by Caleb on the Verdance Mario matchup. Like I think I was like 0-3, and like the games, like I think one of the 3 games was like in the lick of being close basically. And it was weird because when I initially tested the matchup like online versus some people, like I was winning the games and like I was flipping with like, you know, flip you multiple times, and it was like I was ahead. And then I mean, it's the Majin Bay difference, you know. He like you just won't make plays that like would put him into that position, and it was like 8 at you, and I'm like looking at my hand, and I'm like, well, I gotta take 8. My hand just like converts every single card, and then it's like 3 times after that happens, and I'm just like, I'm at 11. You're sending 8 at me. Man, I literally can't win the game. Like it's like I know how Wizard works, so like I get into those positions, and I'm like, oh, I actually just lose the game. Like it doesn't matter. Like I actually, no matter what I do at this position, I'm losing the game next turn or the turn after. Basically, if I take 8, I lose the game from Sword Sliders. If I block 2 cards, you're gonna send another 8, and then I'm gonna be at 5, and then I lose to Storm Shatters. Like, no matter. We played a couple games, and I was like, I can't lose to Earth decks. And then I was like, oh, I'll go back to Slippy. And then I was just winning the Slippy, like Verdance Slippy Florian, like for like a couple days. And I was like, oh, this is good. But then Nia was like, yo, somebody should play this Gravy deck. But if I was more open the weekend prior and was like watching the Gravy games going on, or like reading the chat, when I was like dooming about my pick on like, I think it was like Monday or Tuesday,
You would have been able to.
I would have been like,
Yeah.
yo, I'm gonna like give me the deck. I'm gonna play it. I'll just like, if my original idea was like bad, if I'm gonna do bad at US Nationals, like let me test the deck at least. And you know, which is kind of what I did on the Battle Hardened, of just like don't know what's happening. I asked Yuki like 12 questions before we started like round 1, and I was just like, all right, never played this deck before. And I remember coming back from round 1, and at one point I think I had like 8 gold versus my Puffin opponent, and I drew 8 cards on the same turn, like just popped all the gold, and I just have like infinite blues in my pitch, and I played like 3 Conquers, and I was like, this deck is fucked up. And like from that position I was like, man, this deck does such powerful things. And there was no time in the Battle Hardened to where I didn't think this was the best deck in the room when I was playing it. And I was like, imagine if I played this on Friday. Like, I spent 3 days playing the deck and played it on Friday. Like, it would have been like easy 5-0 in Swiss. And then like, you know, I did bad in draft, but like hopefully I would do better in draft. But yeah, I definitely threw on that one. I definitely threw.
I thought this
Yuki's version is definitely scary, but yeah, go on.
I thought this Gravebones deck was so good that like the night before I almost switched off Verdance.
Yeah, you were saying that.
Yeah.
I have a question about that, Majin, for you. Where do you think Verdance's position goes from now? Because I think a lot of people were like, oh, Verdance is very strong coming into Nats, and I think that was true. But now that, you know, Yuki's list is out there, it's on the official website, even Brody's list, which is a little bit more in line with that theory as well. It's like running 9 golden tipples. It's like less super.
I like the Iowa video in his list. I think.
Yeah,
cool.
and playing more like actual attacks. So with that and like whatever response might happen with Gravy coming up, where do you think Verdance like lands as the weeks go on?
Yeah, I think like if everyone pivots to like Yuki Gravy or like Brody Gravy, which is not quite as bad, but like still not where you want it to be. I think like the Majin Verdance, like the very like number Verdance is probably like not as good. The thing is like it beats everything else, especially if New's gone. Like if New's gone, you literally have no bad matchups except for like Gravy Bones and Prism's like tough. I wouldn't say it's a bad matchup. It's just actually hard to play the game. And so like, oh, that's really good. But if the Grave Bones matchup's really not great, which I don't think it is with this current like Bullander type list, then it's gonna be tough. I do think Lucas's version is probably much better into Grave Bones because it has like the Sigil Rampant stuff. It's a little faster at getting online. I think like maybe you take something that's kind of in between of the two and you have a better, like definitely better odds. I think the ability to like play basically the game of like I'm attacking you, maybe I'm attacking an ally, blah, 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 I'm getting online, and then like you play Plume and you have Sigil Rampant. So like one time you just like 12 your opponent or something. Like that's really good. That plus Storm Striders just kills people.
Also, because the sort of the oops into Sigil Rampant, you also like go up 8, and then you put your opponent down to 10, and that's like
you gain a lot of life. So yeah, and then there's sometimes you just like, Gravy puts on pressure, but he doesn't put on so much pressure that you can't keep hands because like nothing has on hits except for like CNC and CNC. But we have the chess piece, which lets us like one block a Command and Conquer, which is good. We can one block Command and Conquer. We can one block the boat with the chess piece and the arms, which is really good.
And if you're feeling really confident, you can just like let your sync
just take that shit.
So actually, I wanted to touch on this. So like
anyway,
I felt like there was a pretty interesting position in the finals to where your opponent is playing COC at you, and you just let it hit, and you just discard a sync blow from your arsenal. And
do that.
Many may speculate that you just forgot, like you just you were rushed before your game, that you didn't have a lot of time between your semifinals game that was like a barn burner versus your worst matchup in the game, and then you had to go straight to finals and you were just kind of nervous. You're playing your first finals of US Nationals. But like I thought more about it and I realized this is just a ruse. These are just excuses. It really just comes down to you just thinking that you're better than everybody, and that like you did not need the sync blow. You didn't need the 4 life. You didn't matter that your opponent got 2 gold off of it hitting. Like you just knew that you were just better and you were gonna win. Like any other things to say about that?
1 or 2. Yeah. Yeah, 1 or 2. It is funny if like me taking that damage and like messing up, because that was like the double E-strike turn, and I'm supposed to block with an E-strike, sync, E-strike 7, Arsenal Rebound Carapace. That's like the better play, right? But I'm like, I'm gonna get this damage in there before this Humperdinck comes online. And I wonder if like me messing up and taking the damage and discarding the sync, not on purpose by the way, like induced my opponent to possibly be a little bit more lackadaisical about blocking and just gone like, yeah, whatever, I'll take it. Like, yeah. You already took so much damage.
Theory. Like instead of Peter's whatever weird crackpot theory, I thought you were just inflicting mental damage on your opponent.
Yeah.
I thought you were actually just playing the psychic game with them.
Getting in their head a bit.
Exactly.
No, the reality is that I saw a lot of people speculating that like I thought I had Command and Conquer text, which is generous of them. What actually happened was that I thought in my head like make sure you cast Sync Blow if you let it hit, and then I went and thought about all of my options, and by the time I got back around to let it hit, my brain went, why don't I just keep the Sync Blow for another turn? It's not active anyway, because like it wasn't worth for 8, right? The high tide wasn't active, and then I took the damage. And he's like, discard your arsenal, and I was like, God damn it! Flustered. Yeah, like I mentioned. Yeah, I just was sprinting to the bath. I finished my semifinals game. I'm like literally can't believe I won. It was so hard, one of the hardest Flesh and Blood games I've ever played, and I was like, do I have time between rounds? And like, you have 6 minutes. So I like ran to the bathroom, and then while I'm peeing, I have my phone out with Jacob Shaker's list up, and I'm trying to memorize it while I'm like peeing, and I have to like run back. I was so like frazzled.
I mean, semifinals game was like 70 minutes, right? Just to give people context who like maybe didn't watch it. What it was like 70 something minutes, and then
70 minutes plus like a couple judge calls. My quarterfinals, people don't know this that weren't there. My quarterfinals had a 45-minute judge call.
Yeah. Quarterfinals were super long too. Like, quarterfinals and semifinals were insanely long.
Yep. And they weren't like simple games. A lot of the gameplay heuristics that you would normally use to like take pressure off your brain just like didn't exist for those. We had to do some unorthodox things on both sides, which just like ramped up the mental fatigue. And then I sat down for my finals, and I'm just like.
Actually, regarding that, regarding the unorthodox things, I have a question about the list.
Okay.
Quarterfinals and semifinals. It's evergreen. I was like looking at it. I was like, I don't think your Florian opponent can do this to you if you had a single evergreen in the list. And I don't know how the new matchup changes, but at least historically, it feels like the evergreen package into new is something that's nice to have as well. I don't know how the particular game changes if you had evergreen. Is what I meant. So what are your thoughts on that card? I mean, you still won both those games, so maybe it's like, fuck it, I don't need it. But looking back, do you think those games would have been easier, or do you think it should have been in the list?
I mean, I'd like to have it in the list. Like, I had it in the list for the majority of the time. I was a big evergreen believer for this season. What caused me to cut it was we were playing against Florian, and we were limit testing hard. We cut every combo card from the list. No rampant growths, no potions, no fertile grounds, no sigil of solace, no nothing. We're like, we're just gonna run straight aggro 60, and we'll see what happens. And we like 4-0'd Florian with it.
With evergreens, right? This is
no.
You had no evergreens.
No, we took out everything. We're like, how low can we go and still beat Florian? And turns out you can go really low. And so we're like, okay, maybe we don't need these. And then like evergreens can be awkward against new if you're playing potions because your action point is gated. And like what the evergreens do is you're basically forcing them to block a lot because they have to keep their health total up. And then with the evergreens and your other big attacks, you get them to the point in the very late game where like most of their deck's chi, and you catch them on an odd hand and they just like take 4 to 7, right? And that's how you get them. But with the potions, it doesn't work as well. It works way better with Lucas's list. Way better. So I just took them out. And while it would have made my quarterfinals game a lot easier, I was like, I don't really see a spot where I actually need evergreen to ever win a Florian game, especially if I'm bringing in the pots. Like Dread Scythe doesn't work. The full fatigue stuff that my quarterfinals opponent is doing like really doesn't work. It maybe could have, but like it kind of doesn't. And he had to like super fat stack to do it, right? Like his deck was geared for that. So I was just like, I don't really think I need it, and I took it out. It will probably make its way back in, but that's because I could see myself doing a hybrid thing between mine and Lucas's list. And I just like the card. I like going into matchups like against Arachne Marionette and knowing that if they bring in like, 60 reacts and like a bunch of other stuff that I just can't get fatigued anyway. It just feels nice. Because I don't want to bring in Rampant Growth very often. I think that's like the number one mistake Verdance players make. Like Rampant Growth is a really bad card.
No.
Unless it's good.
No.
Unless it's good. Yeah, my yellow no block, no text is bad.
No way, bro.
You ever draw like double Rampant Growth before you're online? I mean, I did in the finals, I guess. And it's still like, people are like, oh my god, that was so good. But like the reality is I spent 2 cards to do like 4 damage. Like it was not good.
I mean, you won a battle hardened bringing Sigil Rampant into aggro decks. I remember that. And I was being like, how did this work?
It was so miserable. It was terrible. Yeah.
So, yeah.
But Evergreen probably gonna make its way back in at some point.
Red Fruits, though, big fan of that card. You're talking about
Red
Earth attacks for 7s. Oh, yeah. I love that card so much.
Love that. Lucas is sitting there and he's like, dude, other fruit. He's like 6 fruits, baby. But he has yellows. And I was like, that's weird. Like, reds rock. And he's like, I love the yellows. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like,
try the reds, though.
Yeah, I mean, he, like, he had command and conquers on the board, so the only thing they could cast was like Plow Under, which surprised me that he liked yellows instead of reds. There are a couple times where I see a red fruits and I'm like, I kind of wish this was yellow, but I also don't want to attack for 6 with no text. That sounds terrible.
Yeah. I think like
7 power popper, great.
Yeah, 7 power popper is great. It's weird because the Verdance lists are like so mathematically kind of like there that like the spice in the lists are like already figured out by this point. There's not much else to go off of that list, so like seeing that he liked the yellow fruits was like pretty interesting. Versus like, I mean, I liked attacking for 7 every time I play Verdance. Like attacking for 7 is so much fun. So.
I wanted to weigh in a bit. You were talking about like Mario and Verdance. I was listening to the Runaways podcast. I always make it about halfway through the Runaways podcast.
Yeah.
Where I get the information, but it's before the real bickering starts. You know what I'm saying?
I listened to the whole thing.
I also listened to the whole thing.
I listened to half.
Okay, cool.
Unless they do a tier list. I'll always watch tier lists. I love tier lists. But the bickering started early this episode. With all them kind of going at it about Mario, like Mario v Slippy and stuff. I remember, I think like Raj and Dan came up to me like day 2 of the event, and they're like, "Hey, we're going deep in this event. We're seeing Verdances. How does Mario beat Verdance?" And I was like, I don't know. And then they were like, "Well, how does Verdance beat Mario?" And I was like, "You just cast your cards." Like, I don't know. But I thought about it after.
Shelter do so much, I think.
Yeah, Shelter, Mental Block, so good. But I thought about it after because I was listening to the podcast, and Dan was talking about how, and I do agree with this, that Mario puts people in spots where they have no correct decisions. Like, he presents an attack that, like, if you guess wrong, you just fucking lose. But that only, like, it's less applicable for Verdance because she gets to cheat. You have answers like Mental Block and Shelter, which help a lot, but I think the biggest thing is that once Verdance online, or even if she's not, she often has ways to convert her hand the same on offense and defense. So when my opponent with Mario tries to put me in a spot where they're trying to force blocks, I can simply just not do that. And then like they're mathematically down. But if they try to play the actual pure mathematically optimal line, then they're blocking too much, and I'm a wizard player, and that's never where you want to be. So I feel like that is one of Verdance's strengths, and I felt that throughout the whole weekend, is that like, oh, I can convert this hand defensively or offensively very well, and in spots where blocking could be bad because I could get blown out by this or this, I could just choose to not do that and convert my heartbeat or my fruits on my own turn. Maybe for 1 less value, but like the flexibility it gives you a lot more options than I think you would generally see in like a 2-card 8 type deck.
Yeah, Fruits of the Forest is such a big part of that, actually.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I remember like strictly on like that Monday where we were playing a game of like Mario Verdance, and I was like played like Up Sticks Kiss of Death with you marked, and you just looked at me and you're like, no blocks. And I'm like, I'm sitting there with like double Tarantula Toxin in my hand, like, you know, my opponent like, you know, overblocks or like does anything, and I just like blow it out and I just like win the game immediately. And you're like, no blocks, and I'm like, well, I guess I'll cast 1 and then Arsenal the, like I'll get my +3 and then Arsenal the other, and then you go like discard fruits, discard fruits 3 like 2-card 8, and I'm just like
it's like heartbeat, discard fruits, Plow Under, and you're like,
I'm like it's like, okay, like yeah, after 3 games I was like, okay, if I'm not going to play a wizard, then I refuse to play a deck that is bad against them. And it was like the reason I like ended back up on Slippy, because like, you know, Keno is free, Ocelio is pretty good unless they combo you on turn 2, and then like the Verdance matchup is like, you know, even
way better.
It was way better than the other assassins. Well, besides new doesn't count, like the traditional non-mystic assassins. But yeah, it is hard. It is hard. I actually went home that night because, you know, I lived like 25 minutes away from where you guys were staying.
You just drove home.
I just like drove home, and I'm like on my phone laying in bed, and I'm like, what if I just played Kano at this event. And then I woke up the next morning and I was like, that's a dumb idea. Like, that's like, imagine all of my opponents, like, if they can only get one card from the new set, they're going to get the Kano hate card. And I'm going to lose against it, and I'm going to be mad. And so I was like, all right, I had to figure out a different deck besides the one I was going to play and Kano. So
You never once considered Verdance. I don't think you've ever considered Verdance for anything.
I think the thing is I think Verdance is good, and I know it's good, like, obviously. But the problem with Verdance is I can't sit there and play a deck like that. Like, for...
It's not your style.
Like, when I look at my hand, and I'm like... Sometimes you can't convert your entire hand, and you're just like... You're looking at, like, red tilling, like, blue, and you have an arsenal that's, like, another, like, 3 for 8, and I can't look at that hand and be like... I would be like, I guess I just have to block for 5 and then send it, like, a tilling and then arsenal another tilling, right? Like, I look at that hand and I'm like, this is so bad. This, like, I can't do that for, like, obviously when it lines up and it's just, like, broken, like, the hands that, like, are just very good that can, like, defensively and offensively convert, like, the deck's just broken. But, like, you sit there, I'm just like, I've had too many games to where, like, I sit there and I'm like, I have 3 Cadaver Stillings in my hand in a blue. I'm taking 9, and I'm gonna block for 2, and I'm gonna arsenal the second tilling, and I'm down 20 life on turn, like, 3 of the game, and I'm like, yeah, nah, this is not playable, bro. I just can't do it.
Really it's like that sometimes.
It's not the wizard that I like. Well, I guess it's not the deck that I like. Like, I want to sit down with my deck and be able to convert every 4 or 5 card hand that my opponent ever allows me to have, and then just, like, explode the game from there. And it doesn't always do that, which is, like, the reason I diverge off of Verdance.
No, I feel
We've had this conversation before. It kind of feels like it's the boring half of Bulllander.
Yes.
That's, like, mostly what Verdance is. It's like the Bulls were, like, the boring part of Icelander, where the cool stuff was, like, the Ice Veins and stuff like that.
The blues.
I mean,
the boring stuff. You have one Strider's turn, which is, like, awesome.
I mean, it did take...
But yeah.
It did take a long time for you guys to convince me to play Icelander in the first part. Like
the last time,
like,
she was
literally
legal.
the literal last time Icelander was legal for me to play an event, I played Icelander, because I was just like, well, I like played a little bit of Icelander, but it was just like, I played it for, I think if I look back, like, the only tournaments I ever played Icelander for was, like, random locals, that AGE Invitational, and the literal World Championship that year. And every other time I was just like, I'm gonna play every other day. Like, I played Fatigue Oldham before I played Icelander at one point in my life. And I played, like, 1,000 games of Kano, but I just wouldn't go to the other one at that point.
I'm glad I stuck with Verdance. She's much more fun than I initially thought. Obviously, I'm seeing success, so that helps, but, like, I don't know. She's definitely more fun. Definitely more fun than, like, the list of 60 cards would have you believe.
I think if you stop comparing her to Icelander, she's if you just look at it objectively and, like, don't really think about, like, the wizard part too much, like, she actually is fun. But it's hard not to think about, like, what we used to have, and also the fact that the tagline says wizard. And
you get to do some, like, you get to make some plays that, like, you would just never make with a non-wizard. Like, in the semis, I IP forward, like. You're never doing that with a non-wizard.
Every Verdance ping is fun. Every time you, like, ping with a Verdance, you put a token.
Like,
that is actually fun. You're like,
casting Harpy of Candlehold.
That's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
I
love, like.
Oh, I wanted to piggyback off of your point of being, like, if you stopped thinking about, like, Icelander, like, old wizards, then, like Verdance got fun. Acilio is the same way for me. Like,
so sick.
Acilio, like, I remember when Acilio came out, and I went 0-18 versus you two. Like, when we originally tested, like, before, like, the sets, like, even in paper, we were just playing on, like, literal, like, before, not even Talistar, we were playing on, like,
no, we were playing on tabletop.
Tabletop. And I'm literally 0-18, and I was just looking at the deck, and I'm like, man, if I was Kano, if I was Icelander, I could have converted this, or, like, I had, like, the thing. And the more I stopped thinking about Verdance and Acilio in the way of like, they just like are the, you know, this part of this old wizard that I used to like. I felt like the deck was, I like the deck a lot more, right?
Yeah.
I still think like they have holes in their game plan that like obviously are there because the old versions were too good. Like we're not getting an Ice Center that is the same thing that it did in the past, because like Ice Center in the past was like too good of a deck. Like even at the time, like Ice Center's math was so good, but like there's still less people playing the game at that time. It took a little more time for people to like want to play Icelander, versus now like if we got a carbon copy of Icelander, like it's the best deck in the format and everybody would play it because it's just like mathematically correct, and it would be easy for people to be like, I'm doing this one thing and it is like by far better than everything else, which is like what happened at that World Championship basically, to where Lexi left and like everybody looked at the decks like still legal for that tournament and were like, why would I play shitty Dromai when I could play literally the most broken character left in the game still, which was Ice Center? So I'm kind of sad that we won't get something like that in the future, or like this is going to be heavily nerfed, but like at least we have other things that could like kind of do what it does.
Well, Dromai was kind of broken too, but
yeah, it was kind of broken. Right. You had like two like really good decks, and then your other choice was fucking Bravo.
Hey, Fi won the World Championship, okay? Fi won it.
Dude, I wasn't a good deck, come on.
No, everybody knew that deck was bad.
Fi won the World Championship, and like he literally did not see an uptick in play rate after, because like no one was a believer.
I don't even think the dude that brought Fi to that World Championship and won it was a believer.
Yeah, just got there, and everyone was like, huh.
So anyway,
that, like, once I let go of like the idea of a Stormstrider's Wizard in my head when playing Acilio, I was like, this deck's so fun. And then we got the Shock, which is dope. My idea for, I think I've mentioned this, my idea for future Icelander is Freezing Point focus. That's what I want.
Weathervane. That was my favorite version of Icelander ever.
I know.
Like the
I know
it was like Weathervane and Case Freezing Point. Oh, it was so fun.
Your version was way cooler than mine, but I kept winning on mine, so like, I'm not gonna stop doing this.
I kept winning on mine too, so you know.
Yeah. You were like, bro, take out all your attacks against Codex. I'm like, no, bro, just put Wounded Bull into your arsenal. You went two very different directions.
Yeah. Encasing Alexi always felt so satisfying because they had no way out. You can Warmongers and they'll snaps out of it, but you can't snaps out of Encase. It's just like you're just.
It was really cool.
Speaking of upgrades from High Seas, I want to ask you, since you played a whole tournament with it and you won nationals, how big was Everbloom Life? So obviously Earth non-attack block 3.
Yeah, as a Titanium Bauble or like as the card.
As the card, like as that one, like we know obviously it's amazing, like just replace so more instantly, right? Because it kind of does the same thing. But like, how important was like the effect, both sides of it, like the life side of it and the recurring side?
Pretty important, way more important than watching the games would have you believe.
Interesting, because I feel like watching the game made me go up on the resolving part of it.
I mean, it won you the semifinals.
Like, it did, and I was cool.
I was like, resolving is actually stronger than just Earth block 3, which is what
it's
gonna be.
No, the card is good. It gives you more. I think the most important thing besides Earth Titanium Bauble is more ways to convert your hand into Earth cards in graveyard for beneficial effect. Right? It has like a mini Fruits of the Forest, where like, oh, I can just like on turn 1, I can just like cast this and gain a life, and I have an Earth card in the graveyard. That's great. And then even later, right? Like when you have, you know, like there was a lot of spots against Peter, right? He was talking about the spot where I just said no block and I converted my whole hand. And even if it's for like slightly less efficiency, it's really good. Like if, you know, you're online, you can take 1 extra damage and keep your Everbloom in hand and then just cast Everbloom Life, ping them, right? Like, and then do the rest of your stuff. And like all cards that do that are very good for her. I oftentimes put E-Strike on the bottom or another Everbloom, which is good. You get to second cycle a lot in Verdance. And being able to like press your opponent's life total with like an E-Strike Go Again, E-Strike 7, or tuck like Pulsing, right? That's good. Or just have another like ping at the bottom. There's just like, it's just like always pretty solid. And then when it's not, it's an Earth non-attack block 3. So like, I'm very high on the card. I think it did so much for the deck.
Actually, you mentioned putting back pulsing, and I was curious. In a semifinals game, when you put back another Everbloom, so you could Storm Strider's Kill with Aether Arc, Waning Bloom, were there no more pulsings in the yard? Did you
All
banish
banished.
them all? Ah, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, why would you?
All burn bears, all pulsings, all emeritus.
Yeah.
There's like
Emeritus. Oh, we saw that one. Emeritus was.
yeah, there's
right
like
off the
crazy
top.
spot to where like you felling, and then like they have to like banish what's new at the top, and it's the Meritus.
Yeah.
But
it's
like
the last emeritus.
but they're at 2, and it's like, oh, they have 0 cards. If you actually, if they don't knew that, and it's just like another block 3, you still win the
Just
game
win.
through Emeritus. And it's like, oh, what do you do at that point? And then I was like, wait, you have nothing left at this point exactly. And I'm like, and then you spend like, I don't know, it was like 7 more turns playing the game of like can you even kill the new at this point? Like until like literally there's the last card in your deck, like actual last card.
yeah, have to ever bloom back a blue just
Yeah.
to store
Yeah,
strength.
like actually last card, like that.
I sat there when she banished it. I like went through my head. I was like, what do I have? Obviously, and I was like, I have a rampant. I have 1 fruits. I was like, I have Aether Arc. Let's figure something out, right? Like I have 1 H-pot left. Like let's try to figure something out. And then I felt like in Dune, where he's like, I see a narrow path through. Like that's what happened in my head. I was like, here's the state that the game needs to be in order for me to win, right? Like I have to have this hand of exactly these cards. They're the only ones of these left in my deck. I have to have this hand. I have to have at least this many cards, and then I need to do this on the following turn. And so like every play I took from then on was just to get to that point. It was like, okay, I have to send an attack this turn because I need that arsenal out of here. I can't get attacked too much because I have to keep these, right? Like that kind of stuff. Oh, I need to stop. And then like there's a turn where I had like the double Rootbound Carapace, and I had to just pass because I can't cast anything, because if I do, I don't have the stuff required to eventually end the game. I need to get these out. Like it was, yeah, it was a lot. A lot had to go my way at that end game.
I think that semifinals game.
Figure out what,
You.
I was trying to figure out what you had as well, and I was like, we cut so many zaps. What do you have?
So many zaps, yeah.
Yeah, because like we're
Yep.
down on zaps too, right? It's like
There was a spot in like the mid game, I think, where I could have blocked with that Aether Arc, and I was like, maybe I'll need it. And I didn't, and I was like, thank God.
Yeah, I think that semifinals game was like probably top 5 best Flesh and Blood games of all time. I think like from a standpoint of like being a viewer and like how hard that game was for somebody to win it, like I think that is the criteria of like it is a top 5 game basically of all time. Like when you're a fanatic about the game, it's like so many things had to happen, like your opponent playing like H-pots, like an E-pot to like go up, and then like the only way they win from that position is literally running you out of cards, and they need to gain life. They need to put the E-pot out there for defenses.
Yeah.
And
That was so smart, by the way, grabbing my
oh
H-pots and
yeah,
stuff.
it was. I remember the Passover, and we were like, I'm like, why are they doing the H-pot? And then like immediately when it goes to the banish, and I was like, they're gonna gain the life, and they're gonna get out of the range, and then there's no way you can kill them. And I was like, what? I was like, what is that?
Very cool.
I was like, that actually is by far the best play they can do in that situation. Like, it doesn't matter to attack you at that point because you're never going to die. So like the only way is for them to survive. Yeah, it was such a cool game. It was, like both decisions, it was really cool.
Yeah. I was obviously very happy.
I was very
It was
happy
a-
when when you won, by the way.
Yeah, I think I turned a lot of people on to Verdance too. Like I think both Lucas and I put up like good. I think like Griffin was in the feature match area too with Verdance. I think
Yeah.
a lot of people like saw what the deck's capable of. Like, oh, it's not always just H-pot combo, and oh, it's not always just Cadavers felling my opponent. Like, and that's cool. Marvel Verdance sold out on TCG Player
Yeah.
the day after. Yeah.
Bro,
Which I thought
did
was cool.
I bet you spiked the price of fellings and plows. I haven't even looked at them. I'm sure you spiked it.
They were already expensive, so it like went up like $5-10, but like they were already expensive. Like it's not like it was like giga.
And you made it even more expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when I started 8-0, I should have ran to a vendor and bought Burn Bears because like I borrowed them from Mia. I have two. I have two Japanese Burn Bears. I need one more Japanese one.
Yeah.
have Japanese triders, right? You picked that up recently.
Yeah, so Andy has been trying to trade me straight up for my English ones for a while because he's a homie, and I want the Japanese ones. And so yeah, it was like the day, I think it was like day 3, like right before quarters, we swapped. And so yeah, like if you watch like the second day of coverage, I don't have Japanese Storm Striders. Then if you watch the top 8, I do have Japanese Storm Striders.
Alright, Pankaj, do you have a question before I go to the gallery?
Yeah.
The
yes, I do.
gallery?
Yeah, I have a gallery of questions. From,
Okay,
from people across the internet.
Right. Well, it's in a similar vein, so I'm kind of just warming you up for the gallery questions. How would you describe your earrings?
That's a good question. I'm sure you could use a lot of different adjectives to describe my earrings. Yeah.
Who gave you these earrings, by the way?
Well, these ones I bought in Japan. The ones I'm wearing in top 8, my girlfriend Larissa got me. You guys know Larissa.
Love Larissa.
Yep.
Hot up on Larissa.
Yeah. They're my favorite earrings. And someone made a comment about them, which I will not be repeating.
But if you know, you know. If you know, you know.
Yeah. So how would you describe them?
How would I describe them? Ooh. Obviously, I love them. Not just because Larissa got them for me, and I think they're really nice, but also they're a reference to like one of my favorite books of all time, The Name of the Wind. R.I.P. Doors of Stone. We'll never see it. So, oh man, I don't. If I had to pick like one adjective, I don't know what it would be besides like awesome or something like.
Lucky, maybe.
They might be lucky.
Yeah.
They might be lucky. Yeah.
All right.
Every top 8 now, I just have to wear them.
Yeah, you do have to wear them. Every fab event, every top 8, easy.
Yeah, it even counted the jinx. I was so scared when I put you on
The on-camera jinx?
I didn't. Yeah, I was like, oh no. I was like, just flashback to PT London. I was like, we have to put Majin on, and then it was the only loss you had, like against Enigma, the entire event. I was like, I don't want to put this guy on ever again.
Ever again? Yeah, I remember like you were like, if they say let's put Majin on, I'll go along with it, but I'm not gonna put your name in the ring. Like, I'm not gonna suggest it. It worked out very well.
It's interesting because like we know you, we know Ellie, we know like 90%. We know everybody on the broadcast, right? So like every time I win like a couple games in a row, and I'm like, I'm playing Slippy. Like how many people are playing Slippy at U.S. Nationals is like a low amount. I'm like, they're like, we need table, I think I was table 17 one round, and you called like table like 16 or 18, and I could hear the I was like, no way they're calling me at 1-0, right? Like no way they want to put this. I was like, Pankaj probably put him up to this, and then it's like not the right table, and I'm like, okay, it's fine. But like, it is something where it's like, I like playing on camera, but at the same time, it's like, do I really want to, like, I lose on camera so often. When you like get called up on camera, you're like, oh, not another review where somebody calls me bad, right? Like
Those are the best. Playing limited on camera threw me off. I'm super used to playing construction on camera, but there was something about playing limited. I was just like not as used to doing all the steps. So I don't know. I was like, oh, I'm kind of nervous right now. When I play constructed games on camera, I may be nervous, but it's not because of the camera. So yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. It was in because I think I played 3 limited games on camera. One was not in the main one though.
Yeah, you played 3. You played 3.
Yeah. Lucas. Oh yeah, because we had the one against Lucas. And
I had Lucas, Bird, and then my quarterfinals opponent.
Okay, yeah.
It was so nice. Everyone was so nice. Which I know this, but like my mom watched most of the event, right? And she was like, oh my god, everyone's so nice to each other. And I was like, yeah, it's just, she's like, I can kind of hear you guys like, cracking jokes and stuff at the table when you're playing for like a lot of money. That just surprised me that everyone's like that. And I'm like, yeah, it's so nice. Because I feel like I almost get to the point sometimes where I take it for granted, forgetting what sometimes it's like to play this in this spot. And like back in Magic the Gathering days, where just a lot of people were not very fun to play games against.
Yeah, I remember like I started playing card games when I was like like 18, 19, and I started with like Magic as most people do, and I remember playing like top 8s of PTQs, and like I don't know anybody in this random ass like PTQ. I just started playing the game like 2 months ago, and like we're playing for like a Pro Tour invite, and nobody's nice to each other. I'm like trying not to get like cheated or like sharked the entire
You're trying
time.
not to get cheated or DQ'd.
Yeah, literally the entire time.
Penalized, yeah.
And like people are like calling judge on you if you make like the smallest mistake or like out of line, and then like starting from that, and then I've literally never had a care in the world playing like a Flesh and Blood game, and like I've been playing the game for like 5 years now. Like I've never felt like at a point of the game to where like I'm playing a random top 8 or like around even at like a nationals or Pro Tour event, like if you mess up, you're like, I wanted to respond on this point, like your opponent's like, oh yeah, like I didn't give you the option to, instead of like, no, you're like we've already 100% past it, you know. It is pretty interesting.
A good example of this.
You accidentally resolve your Verdance ping.
I accidentally resolve my Verdance. Yeah, I like you have to keep track, if you haven't been on camera, those watching, you have to keep track of life total on your pad and on the phone that goes to the broadcast. And you have to represent everything with dice. Everything has to be represented on camera, which is usually a lot more than I would actually do in a normal game, because me and my opponent know what's going on. I don't have to represent things for the camera, right? So there's just a lot of things you have to take care of. I'm very nervous. This turn's very important. And I'm doing all these things, and there's so many moving pieces. Tokens are going in, tokens are going out. I have to gain life here, I have to gain life there. My opponent takes damage, I have to write all this down. And like, yeah, I just got flustered, and like, my opponent just said AB, because that's what you would do for a Verdance ping, and I just picked it up and moved it as I was like doing other things. And then I like looked back and it wasn't there, and I was like, and like, if that goes through, I lose the game on the spot. There is no game. But I was like, hey, this is what happened, and got the rewind, which is how the rules work. But the importance of this is that my opponent was very much like, I want to make sure that this goes the way it's supposed to go, which was very, very kind, because that would have been very sad.
It was also like, I mean, the intent was super, super clear, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, you had it all set up. It was like your last hand base. I think it was the quarterfinals. Yeah. Like what you've been building up towards. But yeah, it is just goes to show what I was talking about.
I've definitely lost. I think I know of 2 games where I've lost at a Pro Tour because my opponent's like, oh, I've been going too fast. I need to do this. Is it okay? Like, is it okay if we rerun in this situation? And like, I've said yes both times, and I've lost both times because I've said yes. But like, I think as a community, people saying yes in that situation is like, it happens like 99% of the time, and like I think that makes our community great, is that we're like, I want the game to be completed as how the game should have been played, not that I got you in this random situation. And
yeah,
it's like, even if like sometimes you're like you call a judge, you're like, I don't want to make this decision because like this impacts like a lot of stuff, like let me ask the judge, and the judge is like, I can't let you go back in the situation because we know like this and this, and it's impacted too much, and like you win the game like the next turn, and like I've won games like that, and it feels worse because you're like, you know, I shouldn't have won. Like maybe I win like 4 turns later, but I won the game because like my opponent messed up, and then they're like, oh, can we go back? And you're like, okay, well, like, let's call a judge because, like, I have no idea how it, like, when we can go back. And then they're like, yeah, it's too late. And then you're like, all right, well, I got the win, and so I'm happy I got the win. But it's like, but I didn't really deserve to get the win, you know? So.
An unfortunate example of that, before we get into our gallery, is my other game on camera against Bird, draft game, when she cast
Divya.
the gold.
Yeah, Divya,
it didn't have go again, and neither of us knew. Like, that's the unfortunate side where the judge is like, well, we'll rewind to it, but like, you don't have an action point. It's like, that sucks.
Yeah.
So yeah, after I like won, I'm like, oh, sorry, like that's not how either of us would have wanted that to go.
All right, we'll go to the gallery. I've asked many places to ask questions about this, and I've got a couple crazy ones. We'll start off with like my favorite of all of them. So now that you're the national champion,
This one's for Pankaj, right?
obviously Punkers, because you're the national champion. Caleb, when did you notice that you're now a sex icon of the Fab community?
I did not notice that. This is news to me.
This is a question that got
Did you put
DM'd.
this question in?
No, this is a question that got DM'd to me. I will not say who asked this question, but this is a real question.
Did Larissa put this in here?
No. This is not from Larissa, by the way.
The news to me is that it took after him winning nationals. I thought that was already the case.
Oh yeah.
That reminds me of the first World Tour Weekly. Someone was talking to Barrett, and they were like, "Wow, Majin had a glow up," and I was like, "I didn't change. I'm the same person. Like, was I ugly before? Like, what happened?"
You've always been a sex icon of the game.
Oh, okay.
It's I've always been like your teammate for a long time now, like over I got a memory of us at the
Long
first
time.
World Championship for like 3 years ago, like actual 3 years, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And like I remember back then, like I was like, yeah, Hayden, Brendan, and you are like definitely top 5 best looking Fab players that are playing the game currently. And so like I've always we've always talked about it back then,
Yeah.
and I'm like, people are finding out now, and I'm like, yo bro, I was like, Caleb's crazy, like that man goes kind of go brazy with it, so
It's like the astronaut
for the
meme,
record, I don't think that's
the astronaut meme was like always has been.
yeah, always
Always
has
has
been.
been.
Yeah. All right. We'll go to the next one. This is more a tame question. What are the most, in your opinion, what are the most skilled players in Fab right now? Like, just give like 3 or 5 people that you think are just like crazy right now.
Okay. I'll give some players that I think are maybe a little bit underrated.
Okay.
Tao.
Tao. High on Tao.
Very, very, very good player. Punkush. For sure. The one tournament you played, you took first at Battle Hard and second at the Focus Plus. Yeah. The third one, though. That's tough. It's difficult. I'm trying to think of people who I like sit down across from, and I'm like not stoked. Like where I'm like, this guy's pretty good. Like, I was very impressed with Bird's play in the event, and same with I think his name was Randy Davis, my quarterfinalist opponent.
You're talking about the Florian. I was thinking Azalea player. No, because I'm thinking of the Return Fire play because you played in draft as well. No,
Yep,
he
same
played
guy.
Marlon.
Yeah.
No, same guy.
But Florian.
Yes.
Yes, Randy Davis.
I was very impressed with his play, and he's been playing for like sub a year.
Wow.
I think he's been playing for less than 6 months, which is like very, very impressive. He's got to be up there. Honestly, I think remember like 3 years ago where you could count the good players on like 2 hands.
Yeah.
If you were really like lenient with good player, you could count it on 2 hands. It is not like that anymore. The average tournament flush mode player is so much better than they used to be.
It is extremely hard. Like I looked at the top 64 players, and I was like, there's a lot of names here that I would like think would be in like a top 64 of our nationals. But if you actually look at 65 through 128, you're like, there's 40 people in this. You're like, if you told me they top 8 of the tournament, like I'd be like, damn, like I could believe you. Like Kevin Murphy, one of our like favorite guys, like didn't make top 64 stats, and you're like, that's a Pro Tour top 8 person, right? Like we all know that he's amazing at the game. Like you just keep looking at them and you're like, man, like it is hard to top, like it's hard to do well at an event these days. There's just so many good players.
Yeah. I agree. I think it was on another Runaways podcast where they were talking about edges and like the average level of players, and how it used to be when you'd sit across from a player, your match would be like more or less determined if you were like the better player because you're just constantly gaining value on them all the time. But they're like, now you sit across from someone, and if you're the better player, you exploit one mistake or two, and it's a smaller one. Maybe they just misvalued something or like don't quite understand what's more important in like a macro sense in this particular matchup, and you exploit that edge, and that's how you win. But it's like the gap, I mean, I don't know, maybe I just suck, so it feels like this, but the gap is just smaller. So like, you have to be sharper to get that edge. Now, luckily, I think luckily because I love this, Flesh and Blood is a game of like very small edges and pushing those small edges. So, you know, having a small advantage is still enough to win the majority of the time. But like, yeah, I'm constantly surprised when I sit down across from someone I've never heard of, and then they play a very good game of Flesh and Blood. I'm like, oh, wow, like I've never even seen you at an event before. Yeah, people are just good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, the first person I was like, when I always thought Cass was good, and then we went to like I always knew he was good, and like we play and we play online and stuff like that. And then I remember when we were testing for the Pro Tour, and we're just sitting down, we're playing like a game, and he's like, yeah, I really need to get like a focused testing of this. And we played I played like 3 games versus Aurora, and I'm like of his Aurora, and like the entire day I was winning the matchup like very, very easily. I sat down versus him, and I was like, I literally need to find like the 1 point of value to win this game, because I'm not gonna win it like anywhere like I was winning the other games of this today. And it's like, yeah, you sit down versus some people and you're like, I'm like halfway through the game, you're like, I think there's like 0 way I win this game, because of like every decision they've made is just like 100% correct every single time, and you're like, wow, this just surprised you.
It's tough. I do think like I love the decks that give you so many decisions where like especially when it's like a little bit more arguable what the correct decision is. Like those are my favorite kinds of decks. But yeah, I think like the days of people just completely blundering over and over are like gone. They're so far gone.
I seem to remember a sync below in the finals.
You mean my psychic damage?
Oh, sure. Yeah. All right. Let's go to another one. So back in the day, you cosplayed as Zoe in Legend of Runeterra. Ari. Why does this person say it was Zoe? But do you think you would ever cosplay Icelander or Verdance in Flesh and Blood?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've thought about it. It's the only thing that keeps me from doing it is that it's a lot of fucking work.
Oh yeah,
And the skill set that cosplayers have, I don't have.
Yeah,
I would have to work with someone to do it because I don't know how to do it.
Yeah, I've wanted to cosplay like the entire time I've ever played like card games, but I literally am not artistic at all. I like don't understand how to draw. Like I could never be able to draw anything. I can't look at things and mean like I build this way. Like it just doesn't come to me like that. And I see them with like all these crazy cosplays, and I'm like, you have such talent. Like
you have talent that I do not possess.
I watch like 80% of the cosplay contests like every single time, and I'm just like flabbergasted about like the work that they've put in, and like
I wouldn't even know where to start.
Yeah, I don't know. I just like straight up don't know. It's like the process of it is just has to be insane. So a funny one here.
By the way, there was some really cool cosplays. This past weekend. Did you like the one that sticks out to me? I mean, there's so many amazing ones. I feel bad calling out this one that I remember when they were all amazing. But the one that was kind of memorable for me. Did you all see the Jarl?
No, I didn't see.
I was pretty like.
Oh yeah, of course. I guess you were typically winning that. It was like Jarl cosplay, and it just looked spectacular with like the weapon and everything. It was like
that's so sick.
The one
I think I saw it, but I just had the blinders on. Like,
did you see the Redback Shroud?
I did, because I walked by it when I was talking about a matchup I had coming up, and then I was like,
yeah, it was huge. Like this thing was, it was huge, and it's like the huge umbrella with like the swords coming down, and I was like, this is sick. And then
that was hard to miss for sure.
Yeah, that was hard to miss, but that was sick. And then there is actually one of the locals of mine like cosplayed Syndra, and like the wig, like the whole wig thing was like a hat. So you could take the whole like the hat and the hat on and off, and I was like, I don't know how you would ever do this and how it looks crazy good, but like this was also insane. Like, yeah, big props to the cosplayers. Caleb, are you thinking about moving to Canada to win their Nats next year?
I am not, but their healthcare sounds pretty nice.
Okay. I thought like you may be going in Dr. Patel's shoes, you know.
Dr. Patel.
Somebody asks why you don't have points on Acilio.
Because Tao Tao knocked me out of top 8.
That's fair.
Of the battle
That's
hard.
fair. That's fair.
He did do that.
He did. That's when he went back to back that weekend. It was just on.
That was nuts.
Yeah. Somebody asked, how does it feel to abuse Metacarpus nodes?
Was this you?
No, this one's directly from
great.
somebody that you know. This is from Oliver. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it doesn't feel great. I felt really bad about that.
It says, I'm joking. I'll ask you a real question later, and then never sent me another question.
And then didn't?
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds right.
We
should ask him for reviews on his cat litter box.
Ooh, true. This person asks, I know you're famous for playing other games, LOR specifically. How much time did you think you spent on playing LOR back in the day versus how much time do you spend on Fab now?
Much more time on Runeterra. But it's different, right? Like, it was literally my full-time job. And, like, Flesh and Blood is now, like, my full-time job in a way, especially since I started doing World Tour Weekly. But, like, I spend more time doing like Flesh and Blood adjacent stuff, editing and whatnot, and like scripting and thinking about things. But like I played way more Runeterra because that was my job, was the playing of Runeterra, and then turning into content. So I would play like probably like 6 hours a day of Runeterra, and I play like on average. If we take away the times where we spend like a week in the hyperbolic time Airbnb to test for like gnats or whatever, on average, like 1 to 2 hours a day of Flesh and Blood.
But are you counting the times we're just in the chat and we're all just like discussing what matchup spreads might be and not actually playing the game?
No, because then it's a lot. We spend a lot of time just talking in Discord chats, yeah.
I think that's the thing to where like I've noticed playing Fab is that I think I spend like, I don't know, maybe like 3-4 hours like on the game like a day. But when I really think about like when I'm in the shower thinking about this matchup, when like I wake up in the morning and I check the Discord messages from like the Europeans that were up and that were talking about like this matchup or like their results and like other stuff, and you're like, wow, I actually do think about the game like at least 12 hours a day. Like from when I like basically when I wake up to I go to sleep, I'm thinking about the game and like multiple times every single hour for the entire time. But like I'm not physically sitting down, but it does take that amount of attentive like going back to like thinking about matchups, thinking about what like cards, thinking about what, you know, other people are playing versus what text they're playing to like be good at the game. Like there's so much back end work, and I feel like we don't even do half of the amount of back end work that like we should be doing, and it's like people are like eventually getting to that position, you know.
I can see that.
I
do spend a lot of time.
Like, yeah, we started doing that quite a bit as well. It's just like, okay, let's have like 2 people are playing the game, but then there's like 3 people like watching and like talking about plays on either side as well.
Yeah, or just muted while working.
Yeah,
and then like they have it on their other screen. I did math homework to a lot of Aurora mirrors.
True. So now that you're champion on a wizard, do you ever consider playing other classes? And why? What draws you to the wizard class? What drew you to the wizard class in the first place? And what keeps you?
I think about playing other classes all the time. When I think of my options for a tournament, it's usually not what heroes are in the wizard class. It's usually like a list of heroes, and the wizard class heroes are usually always in there. So like I'm all like Senso Saka new has always been my list of heroes that I'm considering for an event, right? Like Viserai before that. But I think the wizard class allows me to exploit my particular advantages or like where I am skilled the most. Like for magic, I was really, really good at blue mirrors. I'm a good player generally, right? But I'm not like a great player. But when I play games where it's like spell heavy, stack heavy, the amount of things that you have left in your deck of X, Y, and Z matter for both players. Blue mirrors, basically. Like I do really, really well. I think I have a very good sense of like how things ripple across turn 3, 4, 5, 6, right? In the future. And Wizard plays very well to that. Like, oh, I can't cast Spindle here because I need my action point for this energy potion. Next turn I have to cast this, so I have to block with this, right? Like that kind of stuff that I think a lot of players miss with the class. So like that's why I play Wizard a lot. I also really like it. I was initially drawn to it because I like combos. I played like Crackland Ironworks in Storm and stuff in Magic. I like spells. I don't like creatures. Now I play a lot of attacks in my wizard decks, but like I need my cards to have like text besides just like X damage. And wizard cards just do things. Like they take a lot of game actions. I think that's cool. They get to do kind of wacky things, and I think that's cool. I like the feeling of never being out because you have things like Stormstriders and stuff. And I need to feel like the longer the game goes, the better position I am in. Otherwise, I get very frustrated. So wizards are very, very good at that, right? Like the longer you give a wizard, the worse it is for you. And so the heroes, I just kind of gravitate towards that kind of a game plan where you're like building up to a big burst. I can't remember all the questions. I think I got through them.
Yeah, you definitely got through it. I think I had this personal, like, from knowing you for so long, and it's like kind of how your draft strategy was in the set as well. You're very good when the game scales. Like, you're better. Your like skill set is better at the second cycle than it is at the first cycle. Like anybody can win the game when you're in the first cycle, basically. Like if you're just playing your 4 or 5 card hands correctly, but you like intentionally tried to get the game to second cycle because you are better than your opponent at the second cycle of like what threats are left in the deck, like scaling throughout the game, like playing and intentionally playing decks like in that situation, like that get to that situation and thrive in that situation. Which is like when we started playing like the limit of this format, like you just would play High Tide Tribal basically, and like these like just like massive blue piles that like just wanted to cast Sloops, wanted to cast Barks, like wanted to draw 4 cards in the late game to cast like 5 cards at the same turn. Like you were you would just play that, and you were just better than everybody in the draft table doing that because that's what you play. That's like what your specific skill set is. And I think Verdance, Icelander were both like just decks that were super good at doing that thing.
And Stack Kano as well, right?
Stack
Like,
Kano,
everyone remembers like Majin's version of Stack Kano with all the funny names and everything, which is
my god, with the green penis wizard. I think like there's a lot of spots with wizard where you, especially like I think back to the Nationals tournament, there was a lot of spots where I took like a mathematically suboptimal line to open up further avenues, and like a lot of times it ended up winning me the game, right? It's like I'm gonna take a little bit of extra damage to not block with this card, like that way I can get this on the bottom of my deck because I think we'll get there, and if we do, I have these cards coming up and I think we'll be in this kind of a game and it'll bail me out, and stuff like that, which I think like Wizard specifically has a lot of those kind of spots. Really like Pankaj, what would you describe as like your thing? I know what Peter's thing is. Peter is just degenerate. That's just the.
Like, there's a little bit more to that, but
it is kind of like bursty complex spikes. My thing, the way I describe it is, I want I don't really like going to second cycle often. I'm kind of like, okay, my deck goes to second cycle, it's okay, like in some games, but that shouldn't be what I default to. Which is why when New became very fatiguey, I was just like, I don't like this anymore. For me, I like the game to be about 10 turns long. I still want to be a decent length, because if it's too short, then it's just too variance heavy. So decent at like 10 to 12 turns is kind of like my sweet spot, like where I like it to be. And a lot of interaction during those 10 to 12 games, which is why like the first version of New, like when during Zen meta, where you couldn't fatigue Zen, you had to keep interacting with them and make them respect you. Was like my favorite version of New. Icelander as well. In most matchups, you aren't doing Frost Tech second cycle stuff. In most matchups, going 10 to 12 turns, and the entire time you are just you're interacting with the opponent. You're like making things awkward, and you're asking them questions, but not in a I'm doing better number than you, but in a I'm trying to slow you down, I'm trying to mess you up. Like that's where I'd say my thing is.
I'd agree with that. Seems to be what you gravitate towards.
That's
What
why
are you
now
gonna do
I'm
in
doing
New Scarlet?
I'm like,
Marlin,
Marlin's like very much in that same vein as well. I was like, can I solve this? Yeah.
With the harpoons, I really want to. Like, if I'm gonna play Marlin, it's Harpoon Marlin. I think.
Yeah. I think that deck will be good eventually. I think we need like a couple things to. I think New has to leave for like that deck to be more appetizing. I think like Azalea needs to leave for like the other version of Marlin to leave, basically. But I think Harpoon Marlin will be a good deck to play at one point of the game.
How do you beat Gravy Bones?
So, I mean, you do have Go Again Pirate cards, like Tipples, and I wonder whether Midas Touch in this deck is actually maybe the reverse of what might it be for other decks, where you use Midas Touch to get rid of the small allies rather than the big ones.
Because you can kill the big ones,
Get rid of the big ones. Yeah, and then it does also seem like Gravy at some point, if you put him in the blender, that's just theory, I haven't played the matchup too much. I actually played it a couple of times. It does feel like once he gets in the blender, it's actually hard for him to get out, and a lot of Marlin's arrows are actually quite relevant against him. Sorry, the harpoons, I mean.
No,
like the blue one is like crippling. The yellow one is crippling too. It's like in this matchup, the yellow and blue are both very good. And then King Kraken's also very good.
And then there's the red ones, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So then it's suddenly like, And obviously boats and stuff.
I played against a Marlin yesterday on Talishar. That just like, we were slightly past the mid game, and then they just like 2 different turns went like pitch double blue into Harpoon, cast Codex, and just have the toolbox. And I was like, that's really cool. Like, that's pretty neat.
That's a very fun line. And then you also, she's the only one who actually gets Conqueror Codex CNC, so that's also insane.
That's true, which is good.
That actually might be good if you ever thought about it.
Yeah, it sounds strong. I'm a little worried about the. Go ahead.
So New has the equivalent where you leave no witness as his Codex CNC, but this is better than that. Like, okay.
Easier to do, I feel like, too. Like, maybe not. Maybe about the same.
The New's one is fewer cards. Anyway, go on. You were saying something.
All right, anything else, Peter?
I would like to note, like, I usually don't. I think after the original, like, couple years of draft formats to where, like, I mean, we played Uprising in like 3 or 4 major events, and they've kind of shied away from that specifically. And then I was thinking, we get to draft high seas for nationals and Pro Tour Singapore, which is like, I think the first time they've done like 2 major events for the same limited format. Like, you know, like Misspell was one of them, but like in a while. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, man, I think this draft format is so deep and so good, and like there's so much things to do in it that, like, I was like, oh, we have to do this draft format. I have to like spend like a month on this draft format again, or like multiple weeks on this draft format again. And then I thought about like this format, and I was like, wow, I'm like, I can't wait to like put another 3 weeks into this draft format when like everybody has gotten the first like initial 2 to 3 weeks of like, okay, this is where I think I was before US Nationals. And then now we have the 2 to 3 weeks before Singapore of like, I've already have a great base, how I min-max for there. Are you excited to test for like again on this like limited?
I am. The only thing that gives me pause is like, I believe as it currently stands, Puffin's pretty close to unplayable. I think it's really bad.
That's something
You
I've
say
been
something.
worried about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been worried about that. I mentioned that on the latest pod actually. I was like, it's
Saw that,
like
yeah.
because after like all the featured pods, Puffin didn't do any better than 1-2. There'll be two Puffins at the table, and they're both playing the O2 bracket. And I'm just like, I'm hoping that it's just something people haven't quite figured out with that hero. Kind of like Bright Lights, where it's like it took a while for people to actually get like how to build Dash.io, for example, or build Max. So I'm hoping it's in that range because, like, yeah, this draft format has been having so much positive reception that I'd hate for that to go away because suddenly it's like, oh wait, you can actually only play 2 heroes. Like you can't. We don't want a Riptide in this set.
Yeah, there has to be.
Like we're all supposed to be playing Spitfire and we just don't know how yet or something. Like
There has to be like Puffin builds that we haven't seen that are like good, but like. I mean, I too won at Nationals with a Puffin list that like I literally thought was unplayable. I had like a cracked bubble in my deck, but like it was not because my hero was Puffin. Like I could have just been
you
like
scammed people.
I like literally scammed people. Like I just like had the red nimblism into like a generic attack thing. Like I could have just presented any of the 3 heroes and it didn't matter. I'm wondering about like the Puffin pools that are like I don't know currently. Like besides unless you're like the 1 of 1 Puffin and your deck is like literally 30 like mech cards, it feels like the deck is like really hard to get going or keep going once you get there is like the hard part for I don't know what you're supposed to do basically. Like you get starved early with Puffin, like and you don't have any gold and you're just like I guess.
The most
like,
success I've seen with Puffin is like I was a 1 of 1 once in a practice draft where I just like steamrolled everybody. And then the other times I've like had success was where I had like not a lot of Puffin cards. Like I had the really good ones and blue block 3s. And then I just took like 2 for 7s. Like I just took cards that everybody else wants and like surprise, they're still good. And that was nice, but like I could have just done that with somebody else.
Yeah, that's the only worry I have for this draft format. And like maybe when we watch other like Canadian Nats or like other stuff and people are
maybe
like
they figured it out.
like they're like we see a Puffin deck that's like 3 O's a pod and we're like, oh, this is like they're playing like this card that's like way better. But yeah, there's some cards that I read and like it's like lubricate and like other stuff and I'm like, why is this? I was like, this could be block 3 and I don't want to play it, like besides like blocking for 3. But like I don't know, there has to be something there. I don't like, but I haven't seen it yet, basically.
Yeah. Other than
does
that,
have-
I am excited.
She does have maybe arguable, but I think her equipment suite, like Rust Belt,
Very
is
good.
like like S tier equipment.
Rust Belt, Unicycle, very strong.
Yeah, it's crazy because the chest piece and the boots are like better than every other slot for like any other character, and then like it's the only one with like an actual weapon, so like it's harder for them to get fatigued. And even with all of that, the deck can't win the game, or like we haven't seen how it wins. And you're just like, it's the only one with a weapon. Like it should be like I should be able to block like 9 and send a weapon to like kind of fatigue people, but like you just can't.
Well, I mean, Marlin effectively has a better weapon,
Yep.
Yeah.
honestly.
And Great Bones' allies and stuff, yeah.
It is very
I'm
interesting.
excited to go back to pick 3ing Rusty Harpoons. That's where I live.
Okay, so limited, I'm like, I can see it, but why doesn't that card attack for 2? I just
I don't
don't
know.
get why the card attacks for 2.
I've heard multiple people also say
so
that. Like
frustrating.
why doesn't it
It's
attack
like-
for 2?
It's because it's rusty.
Its ability is that it's a harpoon. That's the ability. You're gonna attack for 2. It's like every other
Yep.
blue arrow that attacks for 2.
Oh.
Who knows?
I cut it from my deck. I was like, I used to have it, and I was like, all right, this is that.
Oh, in CC, I was like, what?
Oh, I was like,
Oh, yeah,
in
GC.
limited, it's
Yeah.
crazy, bro. Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
Blue Walk
Yeah,
3.
And maybe that's why they couldn't make it attack for 2 because of limited reasons.
Yeah.
That could
Remember when
make
we thought
sense.
Gravy Bones might need a weapon for constructed?
Yeah. I like part of the reason why I like stopped looking at the chat was like there was no weapon, and I was like, okay, well, this obviously means that like the character like can't be that good, or like we're gonna spend so much time on this, and then it's going to be like just barely playable, like, and then I'm gonna be like in a position where it's not that good, and then I ignored it, and if I just kept reading the chats, it would have been fine. It would have been it was more than fine.
The thing is, you were right. We did take a lot of time on the deck. Us mortals took a lot of time. Yuki came back from Taipei and in like 10 minutes was destroying everyone.
Yeah, I heard that story of like you guys taking like a week and a half of like trying to build the decks normally, and then like you just being like, but what if I just did this? And it's like every time there's like a new like a new deck in the format, it's just like, but what if we actually just did this? And it's just by far better than every other build in that we've ever had.
Exactly. Also, I said we like sort of as like the team. I'm not touching that deck. So yeah.
You're a hater, bro.
Man doesn't play allies.
You're actually a hater. Like on God, a hater.
The deck is so fun.
I didn't think I would enjoy the deck, but I was presenting like, well, I don't know, like you draw like 4 cards in the same turn, you present like 6 card like 40s, like in a fucking, and like literally in a like an illusionist type character. You're like, wait, but this doesn't play like an actual illusionist. Besides like having allies, like you do some very crazy things that like a regular mid-range hero is capable of, but you also just get to, your finisher is just the ally swing. That's like the only difference. It's a mid-range deck with the ally swing, so like your opponent has to overcommit into your ally, and then you just gain even more life basically. It's like the Dromai thing again, but like better than Dromai.
All right, to wrap up, what's your number 1 Gravy Bones counter?
The counter to Gravy Bones?
You want to bring a deck just to beat Gravy Bones? What do you bring?
Syndra.
I've got my answer.
What'd you say?
Syndra.
Okay.
I think it's Dawnblade Dory.
I think it might be Dawnblade Dory.
Okay, but you have to play a deck that beats other decks.
Acilia.
But that's... Wait, Martin's question was literally if you're bringing a
Just
deck
to
that
beat, yeah.
Gravy,
Okay. If you want to just beat Gravy,
The field is 100, it's 99 Gravy Bones, and you. What do you play?
okay, then it is Dawnblade Dory.
I don't think Syndra beats Gravy Bones that much.
I had to test it.
think
I
Syndra's
haven't played
actually
against
bad.
it, but
Like,
oh no, the deck is horrendous. And like,
Yeah.
but it's like it's the second most represented at US Nats for like because people like. It does the thing, like you stomp everybody that is like average of the game, right? But like,
yeah.
it always
People were
had
above average. It had like a 19% conversion rate.
yeah, it's horrendous. Like, it had a horrendous like spread, but like people will still bring it. It's just one of those characters that people will bring, and like I called it. Like I was like. I'm going to play a Syndra in the first 5 rounds of CC. I just know it, and so I had to play a deck that is like decent into the Syndra and not like unlosable. Round 1, sit down at US Nats. I'm like, oh, what's up, dude? Like, where are you from? We have a good conversation. I'm like, oh, what are you playing, by the way? And he's like, I'm playing Syndra, and I'm like,
And Dawnblade Dory beat Syndra too, so there you go.
Warriors did very well.
yeah.
Very well.
Very well.
Several of them were within spitting distance of top 8. Several Kasai's.
Yeah. Colin was up there. There was another guy that was playing like aggro Kasai, more of like the rough and middle list. I was surprised.
I was telling people around me because they were talking about a Kasai, a mystery Kasai up here, and I was like, oh, that's Colin. I'm super down to play Kasai. I don't want to play against Colin's Kasai because you know the man is matched. Do you know the man has labbed this random ass fucking matchup that no one's ever played like 50 times and has this macro plan that like you're just not prepared for the first time you play against him? Always, yeah.
Always.
Yeah,
always.
like you'll be able to get there if you get to practice against him like 10 games. But
yeah, but the first time he's gonna get you.
You're just gonna lose. So your answer was Acilio or Gravy counter, was it?
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. Like, I think if everyone starts playing 3 CNCs as well, then like it gets more difficult. But the list, you just bring in like your 9 shocks and you just pew, like you just do a lot of attacking. And if they like, they can't ever attack with Limpet. And then if their turns like Rigor Mortis, you're just like, like you just shock it and then you like go about your turn. It's hard for the deck to like Like, if they want to stop your surge stuff, they have to play AB3. You can bring in the 3 fries to deal with like the doctor or whatever, Sawbones. Yeah, I think it has a lot of. We'll see when the Gravy Bones like matures, but initial testing of Cilio felt very good into him.
Being able to shock Rigor Mortis while it's attacking kind of reminds me of Icelander Dromine. Like that part is kind of pog.
Yeah. It'd be funny if Acilio ended up the most like wizardy wizard in that way, because you actually get to interact with people's stuff without catching in Storm Striders.
Yeah, that's true. All right, well, Caleb, congratulations on winning U.S. Nationals, and I can't wait to say, this is my U.S. national champion, like, multiple times. Or somebody being like, but, like, is that really true? I'm like, well, my U.S. national champion said that he also thinks this is true. So, like, I can't wait to hit him with that line.
The U.S. national
champion told me that he thinks it's this way. So, I'd back up, buddy. But, congratulations on winning. It was great watching you. I was so excited doing the whole time, so yeah, congrats, and we'll hit him for Singapore as well.
I'm looking forward to it.
Well deserved and a long time coming.
Yes, yeah.
I'd say. And just to add on to the titles, something that I really enjoyed saying in the cast, and I can add on to it, could be like our World Tour weekly host.
Oh yeah.
And US
national champion.
I was like, I don't know, man. I was starting to worry about it never happening. I was like, man, am I ever gonna do well in this event? Like, I was slowly getting there though. I think ever since like Heavy Hitters Mistveil, when I started putting in the limited practice, I think my tier 4 result went up every single event.
You're scaling.
I'm scaling.
You're scaling.
Yeah, getting there.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on. I've got you for 2 hours here, so I'm gonna let you go. So thank you guys, and we'll see you guys next time.